Rainy afternoon. It's nice to have a little break in the weather. We got a couple of things to talk about today, of course, COVID. And we're going to talk about that first. We're also going to talk a little bit about cure violence and how they're taking some applications. And then thirdly, hopefully we're going to try to answer some of your questions about voting on Tuesday. So let me begin with the cure violence numbers here. So yesterday, we received notification of 175 positive cases in the city of St. Louis. Now, that is receiving a dump of a whole bunch of cases that have happened over more than even the last 2 weeks. I'm going to come back and talk about that a little bit because I think that's the highest number of cases maybe that we've ever had. And it all has to do with how we're learning about cases from, the cases are coming in from Quest and from LabCorp and from the state of Missouri. So I'll come back and talk about that, but I think it's noteworthy to say that yesterday there were 238 people that were in the hospital. That has been a really consistent number. In fact, looks like it's plateauing or maybe even going down a hair. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had a high in the hospital of 260, and we've had a low of 213 on July 17th. So we're at 238 yesterday. We were at 245 the day before, 243, 253. So we're happy to say that the hospitalization numbers are not going up like the case counts are. The number of people in ICU yesterday was the same as the day before, which is 61. And that has increased a couple over the last week or so. Number of people on ventilators, 27. And again, that's been a very consistent number. It's been 27 or 28 every day for the last week. 38 people were admitted to the hospital, 49 were discharged. And you know that these hospital numbers run 2 days behind. So those are the numbers with regard to COVID. Now, let me talk just for a minute on this 175 cases that were reported to our health department yesterday. You all know that across the country, Quest and LabCorp, primarily the two big labs, are having real difficulty keeping up with processing the number of cases that people are getting, and so that has made decision making about this especially difficult because in the last 2 weeks, the city has received notice of 1,218 new cases. If you just add up the new cases from July 17th through yesterday, that's 2 weeks. Of those cases, over 50% of them were over 2 weeks old. So that is the real difficulty in trying to figure out exactly what's happening day to day, which is why we continue to rely heavily on the hospitalization numbers. We do know that easy for me to say, hospitalization lags, but the test results are lagging also. So that is it with regard to COVID cases. You know that it's our goal to continue to get 100% compliance with masks, 100% compliance with social distancing. If you're indoors, you need to be wearing a mask, whether you're working somewhere or whether you're a customer or client somewhere, you need to be wearing a mask. What's the exception to that? If you're sitting down at a table, actively eating or drinking. Otherwise, I was just at lunch with a few people. We were sitting in a covered outdoor sort of area because, it's raining. And so everyone was wearing their masks until our food arrived, took our masks off, ate lunch. As we, were getting up to leave, when we were finished with lunch, put the mask back on, said goodbye to one another, and left. That's an exception. And of course, we know that there are exceptions for people that have certain medical conditions who can't wear a mask, but that's not a common situation. So our goal is to get 100% mask compliance. You know that, what's today is the 31st. So it was on July the 3rd, so 26, 27 days ago was when the mask order went into place. And we hope that we're beginning to see some stabilization from that effort. And so thanks to all of you who are wearing your masks, who are social distancing, who are choosing outdoor dining when you can, who are keeping your gatherings small to the same small group of people. That's really important. And of course, we are continuing to see a number of the positive cases are among people that are under 40. So people primarily in their 20s and in their 30s. And that's where our positive cases are coming from. The older folks, like me and maybe many of you that are watching, we seem to have gotten the message, and we're being careful because we know we're seeing every day that this is literally affecting every business. You see the Cardinals had to cancel their game today. And so it isn't, it's not one business or one group or another. It's everybody's having that issue. So thank you all for helping by wearing a mask, being socially distanced, washing your hands, etc. That's all I have today on COVID. Let's see here. So on Wednesday, I talked quite a lot about the violence that we're seeing in our community. We have, so far in July, 53 homicides. I think that's more than any month that I can ever remember. And it's way too many. We have 153 so far for the year, so for 7 months. Very high. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pain in our community. A lot of people settling their differences with guns, a lot of running disputes between groups. And so that, of course, our police are working very hard to try to solve those crimes. But the other thing that's happening is Cure Violence is getting off the ground. It's already started. It started almost 2 months ago now in Wells Goodfellow neighborhood, but it is now also starting in Walnut Park, which frankly have been where a lot of our murders are. This is a flyer. This is easy to find online. Let me see if I can show it to you here. This is a Cure Violence flyer for the Walnut Park neighborhood, trying to hire outreach workers, interrupters, and outreach supervisors. The phone number to call is 615-3600. This program in Walnut Park is being run by the Urban League. And then the second, well, it's the third neighborhood, is the Dutchtown neighborhood. And this is its flyer right here. And this is all, they are also hiring for the Dutchtown neighborhood. And this neighborhood is being run by the Employment Connections. Sorry, it escaped me for a minute. And their phone number is 333-5639. So, you know, it is off the ground and beginning to be able to make a difference. So the third thing, I guess, that I want to visit with you about is that tomorrow, which is August 1st, the Urban League is having an Urban Expo starting at noon at the Urban League on Aubert, which is just one block east of Kings Highway. So it's 1330 Aubert Avenue, and it's food, toiletries, distribution. So I wanted to let you know about those things. And I think those were the only subjects that I had on my mind. So hopefully have plenty of time today for your
from Lindy asking, has the health department considered sending contact tracers out to bars and restaurants?
Well, that's not quite the way it works, Lindy. What we have done is sent health inspectors and liquor inspectors to bars and restaurants. So we are doing that primarily on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. We know those are the busy times. So we are doing that. We're doing it again this weekend. Contact tracers would mean that somebody's positive and then they're going to ask me if I were the one positive. I'm not, by the way, but if I were, they would then ask me, well, who have you been with for the last 14 days or since the last time I was at work, say, and who have you been with for more than 10 minutes without wearing a mask and without social distancing? That's the highest possibility of exposure. If you're not socially distanced and you're not wearing a mask, and you were with somebody for 10 minutes, not just walking by them on the sidewalk generally, but if you were with them for some period of time, then you have a higher chance of having contracted the virus. So they don't do that at bars, even though that might be where someone picked it up. But we do have inspectors out in bars.
Question from Abby about enforcement of businesses. What do you feel like the reaction has been like so far? Do you think it's being effective, and do you intend to continue with your more targeted approach to enforcing businesses?
We do intend to continue with a more targeted approach because for those businesses, and it's most of them, that are doing a good job of enforcing mask wearing and social distancing, we're trying not to shut them down or to curtail them if they're doing a good job. And I think every single business wants to do a good job. There's nobody out there that just is like, well, I'm just not going to do it. That's not the case. The case is that it's hard, and it's especially hard to enforce masks and social distancing if you are in a big group of people, such as at a nightclub. It's very, very hard to do that. But it is what has to happen if the business is going to be able to continue to operate. And they need to probably make some operational changes as well. So yes, we are hoping to continue with that targeted approach. An awful lot of businesses that I've spoken with, and I've spoken with quite a few, have already made adjustments. There are businesses that might normally have stayed open till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but they're closing at 10 or 11 now because they know that the later it gets, the harder it is. And nobody wants to spread this. And so a lot of businesses have already made a lot of adjustments, and we thank them for that.
Question from Sarah Mayer. So the state of Missouri was listed by the White House as a red zone, and they recommend that bars and restaurants close if the positivity rate is 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Is the city taking federal government's recommendations into account?
Sir, we are taking them into account. Our positivity rate right now is running at about 8 to 8.4, 8.5%. And what you probably noticed if you read all that information that came out from the White House is that, some of the places in Missouri that are really having big increase in cases and positivity rates are in rural Missouri, Branson, and I can't remember all of the locations, but so this isn't just a St. Louis and St. Louis County issue. This is across the state, and we're all trying to do the best we can in order to stop the spread.
So on a couple of other topics, we got a question from Jason and asks, what is the city of St. Louis doing to make sure that voting will be safe for people who are voting in person on Tuesday?
Right. Well, thank you, Jason, for that. Well, first of all, I hope everybody goes and votes on Tuesday. You know, that's the fundamentals of our democracy. So go vote on Tuesday. Polls open at 6 a.m. They close at 7 p.m. There are 99 different polling places in the city of St. Louis. For those of you who are regular voters, you know you got a card in the mail that reminds you that Tuesday's election day. Usually that's a white card. The one I got, just a little, I don't know, 3x5 card, I guess, telling me where I vote. I voted in the same place for the last 32 years, so I know how to get there. But some polling places have changed, and they've changed for a few reasons. ADA reasons, making sure they're accessible. In some places they've changed because of COVID, because they were in locations where you didn't want a lot of people walking in. If your polling place changed, your little 3x5 card is yellow. So that's, take a look at that. Just recognize that as something different than what you usually get, and then find your polling place. When you do find your polling place, you'll find 6-foot distancing, marks on the ground. You have to wear a mask to go in to vote. If for some reason you can't wear a mask, let's say because of a health reason, you will be voted at your car. They call it car side voting or something. So election poll workers can come to the side of your car if you're there and you're unable to wear a mask into the polling place. So the goal is to get everybody to be able to vote. There was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, there's hand sanitizer there. What else should I mention?
They have Q-tips if you want to use the touch screen.
Oh yeah, if you're using a touch screen, they do. They've got, little Q-tips that you can use so that you're not using your finger to do the touch screen.
Marked 6 feet for lines.
Right, floor's marked, hand sanitizer's there. And so just please do go vote. Recognize that voting in person will be a little different. Now, I know that there are folks that are very worried that they're doing the mail-in ballot. And, in my neighborhood, for example, I see there's a Google group and people are posting on there, haven't gotten my mail in a couple days. Well, the post offices, they're struggling. And so if you're worried that your mail-in ballot is not going to get there, number one, today's Friday. It should get there by Tuesday. Take it to the main post office. I know that's an inconvenience, but if you're worried about it getting there, take it to the main post office. I would get it there pretty soon so that it has to be at the election board on Tuesday. It can't be later than Tuesday. The other thing about mail-in ballot, where is that information, Jacob? There we go. So we just talked to the election board about this, and I want to make sure I get this right for you. So if you feel like your mail-in ballot is not going to get there, so let's say you haven't mailed it yet, you don't mail it tomorrow, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can take your mail-in ballot to the election board and vote absentee. So everybody only gets one ballot. So then you would have to take it in, they would destroy that, and then you'd vote absentee. That's till Monday at 5 o'clock. The other thing that you can do is, I understand that if you have a mail-in ballot, but you haven't filled it out and mailed it, on Tuesday you actually can go to your regular polling place and vote, but only if you bring that mail-in ballot with you. So, because they can't have more than one ballot out to you. So it's a little bit confusing, but if you've got your mail-in ballot sitting there, I would get it in the mail. PDQ. Y'all know what that means, PDQ? I know the young people.
Pretty dang quick.
Pretty darn quick. That's right. Get it in pretty darn quick. PDQ.
A couple other questions before we still have time, Mayor. Kyle is watching and asked, since cure violence had been implemented in Hamilton Heights, Wells Goodfellow, can you speak to whether or not there has been a decrease in crime or what kind of impact they've had in that neighborhood?
So Kyle, at this point, it's anecdotal, where Employment Connection has reported that they have made several interventions that they feel has prevented a shooting or prevented retaliation and violence. It's not long enough to a long enough period of time accurate, but anecdotally, they feel like it is making a difference.
Rachel's watching and has a question about schools. Have you encouraged them, and I think that they did make this decision, but your position on schools going all virtual come fall in the city of St. Louis?
So we talked about this a lot on Wednesday, Rachel. St. Louis Public Schools made the announcement, I think it was Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, that they are going all virtual. Now, what that means is that every kid will get, if they're an 8th grade or under, they're going to get an iPad and a hotspot, or maybe it's a Chromebook and a hotspot. High school kids will get Dell computers, and they will work from home on the same curriculum. But we also know that, I'm kind of looking for my notes from the other day, but because I'll botch the name of this, maybe. Here it is. So we also know that 35% of the families in St. Louis Public Schools didn't want to do virtual. They wanted to go to school. Now, they're not going to have school per se, but what they are going to have are instructional support centers. Those were the words I was looking for, in order to lend tech support to kids and to families, food, supervision, tutoring, help with your homework, and there will be teachers, tutors, assistants there in order to help folks, and that will be at school. So, but you still will be doing virtual learning, the same learning platforms that the kids that are doing it all from home. So.
Okay, last 3 questions of the day, Mayor, back to COVID. Trisha's question has to do with masks. What about companies that are not public-facing companies and not open to the public? Are masks still mandatory for employees?
Yes, they are.
Jerry's question also about masks. Can you please share or remind us what the medical exemptions are, with example, for people who don't have to wear a mask?
Someone who's on oxygen, perhaps. Someone who has bad asthma. It's generally respiratory medical issues that make it difficult or not possible for someone to wear a mask.
And then final question for today, Megan's question. If someone tests positive of COVID, do they get a phone call from the testing agency, the lab, or is it on the patient to call the health department to verify their results?
No, wherever you had your test taken, whether it was in a hospital, whether it was at a federally qualified health center, that medical spot will notify you of your test results, just like any medical test result that you would have. Now, I have heard some people, you're anxious to get your test, and I know that people do call, and sometimes they call and the test information is available to the patient, but it's my understanding that within a few hours, everybody contacts the patient. They also then report it to the state and the public health department, more or less simultaneously.
That's all our questions for today, Mayor.
That's all? Good.
2:30.
2:30 already. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. And thanks to everybody who's wearing their mask and trying to tamp down this